wanted to sit down and talk to you while I still remember everything about Puerto Rico. I just saw that the Senate authorized $36.5 billion to aid in the devastation on Puerto Rico. And the reason that I want to comment on it, we were just there twice, 2.5 weeks after the Maria Category 5 hurricane, and then just 2 days ago we were there as well. What we saw was not a whole lot. We basically went from the airport to the port and then back. And we did that twice. And here's what we basically experienced. A lot of this is from what Puerto Ricans themselves told us, and then we also had an interesting observation that came firsthand from an aid worker. First of all, yeah, devastation, yes. Most of it is the infrastructure, especially in San Juan. The building damage is because of, let me tell you, this is a third world country, not like any state you've ever been to. The worst state I've been to for housing is southern Mississippi. And I'll tell you what, Puerto Rico is a lot worse than southern Mississippi. It's not even comparable. Their building codes are horrible. So what was not affected was the stuff that was built right. What was affected was the ramshackle homes that a lot of Puerto Ricans live in, which is, it's too bad. But the question is what was done up to this point? It seems like if you're living in a hurricane area that you're not going to live in a Cracker Jack box, and I would say a lot of Puerto Ricans do live in a Cracker Jack box. Well, anyway, let's go to what is the situation right now. As of Saturday, 2 days ago, water, there was no running water. You received a couple of gallons, up to 3 gallons by waiting in line, and this is bottled water. There's almost no water available like at Walmart or in the store. So you have to line up, and we'll get more to that as where you have to do that, because that's part of the problem. Electricity. There is about 20% of the electricity is back on, but it's not back on to the homes. It's basically back on to businesses, even the airport, no air conditioning. About half of the terminals were running. The big hotels had generators, and if you had a generator, you were fine, which just as far as preparedness, whether you live in Puerto Rico or California where the fires were, any place you're susceptible to some form of disaster, whether it be from terrorism or from natural causes. And the fact is, you should be prepared. This prepper stuff, if people in Puerto Rico would have adhered to it, the damage and death rate would be way minimal. The reality is number one is make sure that you have an idea of where you can get water from. In our case, we have an 8,500 gallon pool at home, and if we're in our bug out vehicle, which is our RV, which is usually where you'll find me, the fact is that I have a filtration system which I can literally drop a line into a river or any body of water, and the filtration is so good that I can drink that water. So these are the first two things you've got to be concerned with. Is number one is water, and number two is electricity. As I said, the main destruction is in the poor areas, and why these houses are even built this way. I mean, they're literally tin and wood. Not a Category 1 hurricane would knock it down.
By the way, when you get to the airport, if you buy anything at the airport, you might want to ask the cashier. She might have a quarter that says Puerto Rico. Every state of the United States of America's got a quarter. We have a quarter that says Puerto Rico. What less expensive souvenir can you take home than 25 cents? Look to the right, El Burger King. 189 El Burger Kings here. 170 some odd El McDonald's. They're out to kill us. May night, I know there's been rice and beans and chicken and pork.
It's horrible. Why the building codes aren't enforced there, or maybe they don't have building codes, I don't know. It's bad, and it's bad because of the infrastructure and the code enforcement, or the fact that maybe they don't even have codes. So Puerto Rico is a third world. Now we were just in Aruba and Curacao as well, which are Dutch islands. Now they had great infrastructure, great roads. Part of Puerto Rico now is only because the roads are so poor, only accessible by helicopter. Additionally, you're talking about, they have desalination plants in both of these Dutch islands. Puerto Rico hardly has fresh water of any type. Again, this is something on a personal basis. For $3,000-4,000, you can buy a personal desalination filtration system, which not only will give you, will take the salt out of salt water so you can drink it, but also purify it. Although I would still use a two-system purification process. As far as the relief efforts are concerned, we saw plenty of military. We had planned to book 2 days before our cruise a hotel, a really nice hotel, which was not affected at all, except that it was filled with military and FEMA and some local residents who were all helping or taking shelter from the results of the hurricane.
Still looks like that right now.
Right.
That's where we were going.
Okay. Well, this is where we were going. One of the casualties of Maria is that we can't go to this one. We're going to spend 2 days here, but the reality is we had to skip those because of the hurricane. So there are some issues.
So there was plenty of military primarily, and then we heard that FEMA was taking up a lot of the hotel rooms in town. So they're there. And we saw helicopters. I saw a Huey helicopter that I had not seen, or Chinook. These big mammoth helicopters that I haven't seen since Vietnam, that can it could actually lift a tank. So this thing could lift anything, and this is what they were using to lift supplies to the interior villages. There aren't any more fuel problems. In fact, the problems with traffic is now traffic jams, which apparently are pretty normal for Puerto Rico. As you'll see from one video that I did, Old Town and the area where the really nice hotels are is all kind of on like one peninsula that juts out into the ocean. This is pretty much fine, this area. Did they sustain some minor damage? Yes. Awnings, exterior signs, yes. Old Fort is fine. You could actually have gone to it while we were there, but we didn't. This is the old town. The town center, the original town center of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Up very far on the top of the hill in this particular picture is the fort, the old fort. It's behind some new hotels. And there's a Catholic cathedral, or at least what looks like a Catholic cathedral. Perhaps it's a government building, I don't know. Maybe this is the Catholic cathedral. And again, some more very, very nice hotels. So, the one thing that was very concerning to me is apparently not only is the infrastructure like the old-time infrastructure, definitely third world, apparently so is the politics. And this is where we get this contest back and forth between the mayor of San Juan and President Trump. Well, the fact is we talked, or we heard, a nonprofit aid worker working for one of these nonprofit corporations that the only thing that they have to do is to bring aid to people, and they're basically were medical workers. And they came in to assist one of the smaller seaport towns. And the problem that they ran into were all political. For instance, they wanted to help distribute the water, but the mayor would not let them do it the most efficient way. It had to be done the mayor's way, because otherwise it wouldn't seem like it was coming from the mayor, because the mayor wanted to be portrayed as where all this aid was coming from, and wanted to actually have hold of the process. Well, this is all politics. And this aid worker was very frustrated when they started to point out things were actually not storm damage, but just from neglect. They were actually asked to leave, even though, as I said, they were there at the request of the mayor, and they were there for no money. They paid for themselves to get there to do medical work among the hurt. And once they started whistleblowing on the how the actual Puerto Ricans live and the substandard conditions, well, they were told to leave. And so that's how we ended up hearing from this gentleman. So yeah, things are bad. A lot of it is bad because it's bad infrastructure to begin with. This is a third world island. It certainly does not compare favorably to Aruba. It does not compare favorably to Curacao. It's very disappointing. I don't know what the Puerto Ricans did with all the money prior to this, or maybe they didn't have any. I know that they're a bankrupt territory. On a personal level, I was very impressed, however, with the people. They seemed to come to work despite the fact there was no running water, no electricity. They still showed up at work. Their clothes were beautiful, pressed. I have no idea how they did this. And they were happy, or appeared to be happy, appeared to be very professional, kind actually, kind of tourist. Doesn't make any sense in the middle of what they were going through. But I have to be impressed with the Puerto Rican people, especially the workers who showed up despite the fact that at home it was just horrible consequences. If you really wanted to find a place, by the way, and you spoke Spanish, that is going to probably be in very near future a good place for a bargain to have a home. Again, speaking Spanish, English, Puerto Rico may not be such a bad idea, especially if you're a U.S. citizen. Whatever you do, make sure you're self-contained. By that I mean that you have a water source, that you have electricity. A generator is really important, not only for them, but going back again, this should be a warning to us all. My son-in-law, Brad Jones, I got to give him a big thumbs up. He went out and bought a generator prior to the Florida hurricane, and you know what? His family really benefited from that smart move. So the fact is that it can be done. In fact, it's your personal responsibility to take care of yourself and then go out and help your neighbors. Just like they say when they're given the plane instructions before your flight, it says, you know, put on your oxygen mask first and then you can help other people around. Well, that's true of anything. Make sure that you can breathe, that you have water to drink, that you have electricity, and then go out and help your fellow man. As far as Puerto Rico, man, it is a complex question, and we're all going to pay for, all U.S. citizens are going to pay for it as they dump and continue to dump more money into the relief efforts there. I feel sad for the people individually. Again, politicians, I have a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach based on the complaints from the aid worker and from people that we heard. They're probably the problem, the majority of the problem. The building codes are not being enforced. Hey, it's a third world country. You got a big difference between the haves and the have-nots. Not good to be a have-not in Puerto Rico. But again, if you're looking for a place to go, hey, this would be a great place to invest in. And boy, they can use your money. And hey, it would be cheap. Most of the Puerto Ricans that we have heard that are professionals are coming to the United States. They don't need to immigrate because they're already citizens. They're just moving. And what's being left behind are incredible bargains, as homes that weathered the storm quite nicely are for sale at rock bottom prices. Land is very available. So anyway, that's our take on Puerto Rico, and I wanted to wait until we got home because we have only a small amount of video that we could actually take that showed any of the damage, and I wanted to collect and write down all of the different things that we had heard from people that were actually on the front lines and from what we saw. So, hey, it's Ray Brown from Innovational Health, wishing you a good day.